Gisozi, where we also had members of the Central Executive Committee of the NRM party. We also had the leadership of Parliament as well as the leadership of the judiciary. So the whole government discussing the issue of wealth creation. And that cabinet continued to yesterday, Monday, and that discussion is what dominated the bigger part of the cabinet, where we had again cabinet members and also members of the Central Executive Committee of the NRM, as well as the senior management team of the NRM Secretariat, discussing the very subject of wealth creation. So I will dwell more on that, but also another issue which we discussed, which I will start with, and then we'll be able to raise issues thereafter. Now, yesterday in the cabinet, the Minister of Water and Environment presented a statement where he was required in cabinet to consider and approve the host country agreement between the government of Uganda and the African Water and Sanitation Association in order to allow for the establishment and hosting of the African Water and Sanitation Academy. What am I talking about? There is an international organization called the African Water and Sanitation Association, which brings together utility facilities like National Water and Sewerage Corporation, similar facilities in different countries. Actually, it is constituted of over 100 utilities from over 40 countries in Africa. And its headquarters are in Côte d'Ivoire, West Africa. And the board of that association took a decision and identified Uganda to host an academy, the African Water and Sanitation Academy. And this was through a competitive process, and Uganda emerged the winner. And therefore what we were considering yesterday in the cabinet was to approve the host country agreement between the government of Uganda and the African Water and Sanitation Association. And once the agreement is approved like we did yesterday, then it paves the way for Uganda to host this academy. And it will be hosted by the National Water and Sewerage Corporation. And basically this academy will be to build the capacity and train water and sanitation professionals in Uganda, but also across Africa. So Uganda will be hosting this academy. What this means is that the different countries that make this association have expressed confidence in Uganda, and largely because of the good work that has been done by the National Water and Sewerage Corporation, because that's the utility that represents Uganda on that association, the African Water and Sanitation Association, which brings together over 40 countries. And we want to appreciate and congratulate National Water and Sewerage Corporation and the Ministry of Water and Development for the exemplary work that they continue to do, that is appreciated across the region. And that's why Uganda was voted by this association to host this regional academy which will be here in Kampala. So we did consider this and they approved this host agreement, and then the academy should be starting any time, and it will be able to provide these services, particularly training professionals in the field of water and sanitation. So that's one of the key issues which we addressed yesterday in the cabinet. Now, the other issue, like I have already said, was that on Friday last week, His Excellency the President invited members of the cabinet, members of the Central Executive Committee of NRM. He also invited the leadership of Parliament, as well as the leadership of the judiciary, to do a field visit in Uganda and Zimbabwe and look at some of the wealth creation interventions that the President has been supporting, have a discussion on how we can take the country forward in terms of wealth creation. And the debate then was carried to yesterday's cabinet, where we spent the bigger part of the day again discussing the wealth creation strategies in Uganda. And the major point I just want to drive on this is that we left cabinet all united, that we should speak with one voice and rally Ugandans to work hard to get out of poverty. So that's the major thrust of the government programs as we speak today. You do recall the history of this country, that NRM came with power in 1986, and we had a 10-point program. But when I look at you, I think most of you were born either around that time or after NRM had come, except for some few of you. So maybe you read this in the books, the 10-point program, which was expanded to 15 points. But we usually crystallize it into 4 ideological principles on which NRM is based. And it's important that we remind the country about this. That NRM stands for 4 major ideological principles. The first one being patriotism, the second being Pan-Africanism, the third being socio-economic transformation, and the fourth being democracy. Those 4. That's what NRM stands for. And whatever interventions the NRM government spearheads are in answer or in fulfillment of these principles. They are anchored on these principles. Whichever activity you think of or you look at. Now, the discussion we're having was largely on the third principle of socio-economic transformation. Over the years, government has invested in a different set of interventions, especially to do with service delivery, whether you speak of healthcare, education, extension of electricity, water and sanitation. All these programs, all these services